Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Optimum Human Podcast. My name is Brian McKay, he's Claude Petroulis, and we are your hosts of the Optimum Human Podcast. Today we've got another amazing guest, Mrs. Allison Pelot. I almost screwed that up.
It's okay.
Allison, how the hell are you this morning?
I am awesome. Thank you for asking, Brian. So good to see you again, and nice to meet Claude.
Good to meet you too.
Yeah.
And Claude, sir, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm on vacation, so I'm pretty relaxed.
Where are you?
I'm just like an hour and a half away from Toronto, so just at the beach here, Wasaga.
In the boonies.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. There's mosquitoes out here, so it's kind of freaking me out.
Really?
Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like it. And flies. There's like bugs out here. It's weird. It's so different.
I didn't know there was bugs in Canada.
No.
Just usually
like
moose and beavers.
Yeah. I thought you guys were safe. Like I lived on the East Coast and it was horrendous there. Southeast. Now I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so we have like no bugs.
Nice.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Cool. Pacific Northwest, like Seattle or
Portland.
Portland.
Yeah.
Fun place.
Home of the Trailblazers.
It is.
Are they still a basketball team?
What's that?
Are the Trailblazers still a basketball team?
Yeah, they. People like them here.
I have no idea. I haven't paid attention to basketball in 15 years. But anyways, so after that rambling, Allison, for our listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a little insight onto who you may be or who you may not be and what it is you do to serve the world?
All right. Well, thanks, Brian. I am what have come to realize or call myself as an intuitive fitness and nutrition coach, mainly because I love helping people become more aware of their physical bodies, their emotional bodies, energetically as well, what they're putting out there. And so it's just me kind of being a catalyst or guiding them through that process of greater self-awareness, and most of it is training in the gym, but I also help people with nutritional coaching as well as emotional coaching. And then I, have this podcast now. So now I'm a podcaster, which is pretty fun. Yes. I'm playing podcaster.
How long's your podcast been running for?
I think actually, I feel like we started it in February. I don't know if that's right or not. I have to look back at the dates, but it hasn't been that long. Yeah. I haven't really been counting. Yeah.
Definitely seen some traction with it. You've definitely had some cool guests on there. So if
our
listeners haven't heard, definitely check it out. I've been on there myself, so
yeah,
check out that episode for sure. If no other ones, check out that episode.
Definitely, I agree.
So what?
Yeah, but
go ahead, sorry.
So I've been doing these. Actually, I've been doing it for 20 years. I started out as a gymnast. I did that for 20 years, from like age 5 to 21, and so that was pretty much my life for a very long time. It was my identity, and I've always been really comfortable teaching people physical movement, just because I've been able to find that within myself, and I'm really good at expressing it and helping people understand how to move better. And I've also been through tons of injuries and obstacles physically as well. I've been through many physical vulnerabilities, broke my ankle like 3 times, had surgery on it, had total knee reconstructive surgery. I fractured my back, my lower spine. So, I've been through it all. I've had 2 kids. Physically speaking, I have a lot of compassion for people who are going through pain. So, and I'm able to help them see the light at the end of the tunnel in a way, because I've been able to really take myself out of that dark place of pain and bring myself up into something that, or transform that energy into replenishment, regeneration, and function again. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's been a long road, but this is where I am now.
Absolutely.
How did you break your ankle 3 times?
Well, yeah, short landings basically. I was
Also
really,
gymnastics?
yeah. So I had this thing. I was kind of, when I passed a certain age as a gymnast, I started getting really scared, and so I'd close my eyes in the air, which is not a good idea. And so I just kind of say, okay, I'm going to land wherever I'm going to land. And sometimes I wouldn't land very well with that strategy. So I'd really land short. And then I did that a couple times on the vault, and just basically my ankle just went crunch like that, full
Oof.
force. So, yeah. And, it's, back, I guess, I'm like 44 now. So about 20 years ago or more, the mats were not really as good as they are now, and much, much harder surface to land on. So the impact was far greater. And so, yeah, with all those combined, with that combined situation, it's like, okay, something's got to give. So it ended up being my ankle about 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the good news is I've been able to really, it's helped me learn more about how the ankle works, how the body works, and how I can help other people who've had injuries, or have restrictions in the ankle. So yeah, it's served me well. I mean, all the injuries I've had actually. So
Yeah, you can
it,
either use them as a jumping block,
Opportunity.
or you know, or not. I guess is the case. Maybe.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you kind of forced to, in a way, you either just learn how to help yourself, and you learn the specifics and the mechanics around that when you get hurt, or you just stay in victimhood and not get better, I suppose. I guess those are your choices. But, I just chose to I love to move. I don't want to be restricted or vulnerable that way in a physical way. I mean, at some point you do kind of come into that realm of being physically vulnerable, especially as we get older. We have to kind of accept where we are with it. But I think that the body, it has an incredible capacity to regenerate. So if we can realize that, then the sky is kind of the limit, and really age doesn't, matter. Maybe you're going to regenerate slower, but if you have the tools that you need to regenerate and to get your body back on track, then really, I mean, you can do it. You can do anything with that. So I truly believe that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, you went pretty much like 15, 16 years as a competitive gymnast, right?
Yes.
Now, you said you stopped at it around 21. Is that just because, life got in the way, or what happened there?
Well, I was Well, I was about a year from graduating college. I had a scholarship to college for gymnastics. I'd been doing it pretty much all my life, and I just wanted to. I had a really good year without any injuries, and I wanted to end it on a good year. Um, and I just was getting to the point where I wanted to do other things in my life. I wanted to just look and discover who I was besides a gymnast, because
Mm.
that had pretty much been my identity for so long. And it is quite a transition, especially as a young woman. Uh, Basically, who you were for like 15 years dies when you stop doing that sport. So you have to really rediscover yourself. And, I mean, I hope I can say cuss words on this show.
Sure, sure.
Is that okay? But, my 20s were a shit show, because I just couldn't, I was like, who am I? And I've spent that time really trying to find myself, because, a big part of me died after I retired gymnastics. So, um, yeah, it was, going into coaching other kids for a while, and that was really fun. But, I really needed to give myself that space in order to find out who I was and really what I wanted. So not just what other people told me, because as a gymnast, you kind of, it's one of those things where you mimic perfectly what people tell you to do in a way, and then you're judged literally. So you never really, I mean, you kind of never, in a way, get to really be your own person. I mean, it's a great discipline. It's a wonderful sport. And at the same time, there's that level of perfection and that standard that you strive towards. And that's not realistic in a way to really apply to real life. There's many, many wonderful things I got from gymnastics, but one of the things that I've had to kind of unlearn is the perfectionism. So when I read Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, that was like, wow, I don't know what it was about that book, but there were things in there that I have experienced that I've never heard anybody talk about before except for her. So I thought that book was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, have you been through any other similar situations, if you will, as having to let an old version of you die and move into a new one, or has that kind of been the only main one in your life?
Yeah, I think, well, in my younger years, the two biggest things were probably my parents divorcing at 15, but also of course, retiring from gymnastics. And then I would say probably, the biggest things are, having kids. You're totally, you have a different life. You loan your body for a little while. In a way, I had to deal with it actually being a trauma in my life. Like, even though it's a beautiful thing, I love my kids so much, and I actually had a huge desire to have them in my life. Still, I think there is a level of acknowledgement where, okay, we had to detach for a little bit to actually go through this process, because it can be stressful, labor and all the, everything you go through to have kids. So that was one thing that I had to deal with, because a part of me really disconnected during that time, because it was so, I'm so used to being in control of my physical body and as a gymnast and all that. And then when I went through that, it was like, whoa, like what just happened? What's going on? This is crazy. Like I can't control what's going on with my body,
Right.
So, yeah, it was just, I think that was, and so I think after that, that's actually when I got into the CHEK stuff and read my first book with CHEK was How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. And that blew my mind at that time, because, I had been going down the road of like what everybody was saying was healthy, like it was terrible, actually, if I think about it. I was doing like Splenda, like the sugar substitute, because, I was trying to stay away from sugar and all that.
Right.
And
Well,
I
what was the
started
big fad back then? Probably what, Atkins or?
I think it was, I believe it was Atkins probably, but I think a lot of the artificial sweeteners started coming on the market,
Mm-hmm.
and that was what was considered healthy, as well as like I did bodybuilding at one point in my life, and low fat, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those were pretty harmful to my body, and I ended up with severe digestive issues, to the point where I was like in bed, couldn't do anything. Doctors didn't know what to tell me to do. And I was just kind of at a loss as to what I could do. I was like in my early 30s, and I couldn't function. I was in so much pain. So that's how I got, that's how I stumbled onto How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek. I think I'd seen him on some show with Gabrielle Reese, and I was like, wow, that guy, I want to train like that guy. I want to learn what he's teaching her. And so from there, I got his book. I started reading it. The nutrition was like, wow, I've never heard this before. And at the time, I mean, of course, now we know all this stuff. A lot of people are very familiar with organic food and all that. But at the time, that was unheard of. And as odd as it sounds, like being an athlete, I didn't really connect the quality of food to my health. So, it was like, oh, this makes sense. And then when I started applying it to my life and actually doing the things that he suggested, and actually went gluten-free, and that's a whole nother story. But then, my health started changing. My digestion healed, and that totally sold me. So, yeah, I just felt so much better. I didn't have aches and pains and all that. So being an athlete, my joints were hurting. So, yeah, I mean, it was kind of amazing. That was a turning point in my life for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Now, I was kind of curious, having a gymnastics background, when you work with clients nowadays, does that kind of overarch, or is that your starting point, or how do you use gymnastics or even GST in your training?
Well, that's a good question, Brian. I love doing gymnastic or helping people with gymnastic strength training. I love GMB. If you guys are familiar with them, gold medal bodies, I think, is what it stands for. They have a
Yeah.
really creative way of like teaching those skills to people, like to anybody, which is kind of amazing to me because gymnastics, as far as I've known, has always been something for like people under like the age of 25, right?
Hmm.
Nobody usually does gymnastics over that age. But now it's actually available to people. There's like steps people can take, and I love that because I pretty much do my physical movement that way anyway. I teach people in steps, in phases, progressions, just like you would in a gymnastics gym. And I think it's just better for the mind to be able to handle it that way instead of like all at once, like saying, okay, just do that flip. Well, there's steps to take to do that move that gymnast just did. So there was hours and hours of practice, of drills and strength training and all that. So those are the kinds of things that I would help people with, just being able to even hold your body up like in a plank, or that's actually a gymnastics move. So if your shoulders are not stable enough to hold that position, if you can't get in the right position properly to really create good shoulder stability, for example, then those are the things that we work on. So and we work towards that. So yeah, it really depends on where the person wants to go with it. But I really enjoy doing the gymnastic strength training. We have some stall bars there. We do hanging and stuff like that. So, and some bear walking on the floor and all those fun things. It makes it a little bit more fun. And sometimes it's really fun for people to actually just be kind of playful with their movement instead of always like the corrective exercise approach, where it's very strict. So there needs to be kind of, going both ways with that, in my opinion, for people to continue to enjoy the workout and the work together. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did you transition? Like you said, during your 20s, you spent a lot of time finding yourself, right? And trying to find your identity. Now, how did you go? Like, where did you graduate in from college or university?
Well, I was at Radford University, which is in Virginia. It's near Blacksburg, near Virginia Tech. I went there for 3 years with a scholarship in gymnastics, and then I decided I wanted to do physical therapy.
Okay.
So I was in a pre-physical therapy program at Radford, but they didn't have a full physical therapy program. So I decided to move back to Georgia and went to Georgia State University to do their physical therapy program. But then I got there and I actually decided I didn't want to do physical therapy. I actually wanted to do exercise science. So I graduated with an exercise science degree from Georgia State University. And it's funny because I was like, I didn't want to be a personal trainer. And my professors were always like, just, personal trainer would be perfect for you. And I just was like, always like, no, I don't want to do that. Mainly because, I think it was a different thing back then. It wasn't like a profession like it is now
Hmm.
as well. I kind of just had a greater plan for myself. I wasn't sure what that was, but I knew I wanted to have my own business, and I didn't really want to have a corporate job or work for anybody. So I knew that much, but I didn't really think about personal training that much. But then finally I was like, after I had my kids, I was like, this is a real flexible job to have in it. And, I can actually go anywhere I want to with it. There's a lot of different, you can be any kind of personal trainer you really want to be and focus on whatever you want, and you'll attract those clients to you. So when I realized that was pretty incredible. And, I love it now. So, there's so much. You can have a podcast as a trainer. You do whatever you want.
For sure. And like, it seems like you've almost been setting yourself up your like whole life for kind of this path. Like, it looks like you've been physically active, or at least mentally kind of in that realm, like for your whole life. So you've got a pretty good backing in it.
Yeah, I feel like I do. I don't know what it is about it, Claude, but and this may sound maybe weird to your listeners, I don't know, but from the, I can remember like my first memory, just like really just wanting to go and do things. Like I just wanted to be physically active. That's like all I could think about, and I was just ready to go. And of course, that energy translates into who I am now for sure. But also now I've been able to understand a little bit more about how I can regulate that energy. And it's not like, like when I was younger, I could just go, go, go. And it was, I think I used to like work out in my 20s in the gym for like 2 hours and still have lots of energy. And it was a waste of energy, honestly, when I think about it. But, now it's like, okay, how am I going to use this energy more efficiently? And so that's the whole thing I like to help people with, is the replenishment and recovery part of life. And it doesn't matter if you're an athlete or not, you still have to have those skills, even if you're like sitting in front of the computer all day. Yeah. So, otherwise you just get depleted, you age faster, and no one wants that, right? At least I don't think
so. Yeah. I don't know that I've met anyone.
Yeah.
Except for maybe kids. Kids always want to be older than they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they learn.
I remember that.
Right.
Yeah. Then I was like, oh, yeah, actually I'm okay right now.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Let's just pause right here.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. Some people, they kind of know what they need to do. They know what they need to do. They need to eat better. They need to exercise, but they just still don't do that. The light never clicks on. And I was at Walmart up here yesterday, and oh man, I'm just like, these people are gonna die like in their 50s. Like they're rolling around in these little wheelie things, right? They're probably like 200 pounds above the overweight line, and I'm like, I don't know how psychologically somebody can allow that, but it's kind of scary to see, and it's not really going away. I think people are becoming more mindful, but it's not going away at all.
Yeah, I can honestly say the only experience I have with being overweight is being pregnant twice, and that was like, oh man, it was kind of in a way, it's okay because you have a baby and there's a purpose for that, right? But the extra weight on the body, even just that much, was so stressful, and I can't even imagine experiencing life that way. But I think maybe all I can do is guess, and maybe it's like some kind of a disconnection from self, or in some people's cases, it's really more of a protective mechanism. So people get too overwhelmed, and who can blame them? There's so much stimulation constantly, and if you don't have the tools actually to offset that stuff, then you're gonna create your own protective mechanism, and your body is gonna protect you no matter what. So I think, in a way, that could be part of it.
Protective but destructive at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now you're talking about Walmart, and it totally reminds me of like, if you go to Whole Foods and you look around, generally people are pretty happy and, very friendly and all that. And then you go to Walmart and everybody's looking down at the floor. Nobody will make eye contact. Yeah. Chicken or the egg, but there's something there to beyond a shadow of a doubt as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I agree. Aesthetically speaking, Whole Foods is amazing. It's like walking into a Garden of Eden,
Well,
Walmart,
I
not
don't
so
know
much.
Very
about that,
expensive
but
Garden of Eden.
Well, I haven't been to Whole Foods in a while, but yeah, when I've had that experience before, I kind of feel like everything's so colorful and,
Mhm.
just kind of the way it's displayed. But you walk into Walmart and it's like you can smell the plastic and people and the light. It's like I don't know, what are those fluorescent lights
Mhm.
all shining on
Yeah.
you? It feels like an energy drain. So definitely, I don't know why that is, why they do that there, but yeah, it's but people still go and they shop and love it. So
Yeah.
who knows? Yeah.
Customer service is great at Walmart.
Anyways, enough of that. We'll be hearing
Yeah,
from their
enough.
attorneys
Before
here,
we get a letter in the mail.
right?
Uh,
You can edit that out, right?
No, there's no redos in life, man.
Yeah.
Everything's one take only.
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I wanted to get a little bit into the journeys work. I know you're a lot more well versed in it than I, but that's where we actually met was after John invited us down to one of his intensives. We met at the one this past spring, and so can you kind of let us know kind of how long you've been doing it and what you've really gained from it?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Let's see. I've been doing it for, I think, gosh, well, I first actually, I'll go back a little further. We just had JP on the show. So like JP was my first teacher at the CHEK Institute. That was back in like, I think he
2007, I
discovered it
believe.
was 2007. Thank you. And so he actually turned me on to Journeys of Wisdom back then, but I think it took me a little while to actually do it. So I had written the website down, and he said, and I had it in my book for a while. And then I, called John up one day, and it was like, I don't know, it was really weird because, he kind of like totally, like I just wasn't there. I wasn't, I just wasn't in the mode of like seeing myself that way at that point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, much like reading the book How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, it blew my mind, and it also made me feel really uncomfortable. So,
Yeah,
quite honestly, so
yeah, disturbing the comforted for sure.
absolutely. Oh my God. So I had no idea like how much I had numbed out, and I was really disconnected from. But of course, as we know that you go into that mode when you need to survive or get through things. And those are, necessary mechanisms. But at the same time, you don't want to stay in that mode. You want to, in order to continue the healing process, you want to come out of it. So John was helpful to me for getting out of that survival mode that I had been in. And so after that, I think I went. So my first intensive was after. This is quite a story. If you guys are ready. Um, my son had fallen off a cliff. So
Holy crap.
we were on a hike, and there was a loose railing. He leaned up against the railing. He fell 60 feet into a waterfall.
Shit.
And and so it was quite traumatic. He did live, and he's totally fully functioning. He broke his neck. He's punctured his lung. He punctured his spleen. He broke his wrist. He lacerated his head. But he was in the hospital for 3 days, but he recovered super fast. It was kind of incredible.
Wow.
Because I honestly thought, I mean, I couldn't see him after he dropped off, so I honestly thought he had died. And so, and it's just like there's something about that when you feel like your child just died. It's a surreal kind of like time just basically stops. And you don't know really what to. There was nothing I could have done at that moment, but of course, time stops, and you're just like, what happened? You're like, did that just happen? It felt like a dream,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, reality hits, and then you start. I started screaming and running and trying to get to him and all that. And my son and husband ran around the other direction and went and got him out of the water because it was really cold. We were hiking in the Pacific Northwest. And so, to make a long story short, I was dealing with that. And that kind of woke me up from after moving to Portland. And I just, I don't know, I think, again, I was in a detached mode, and that just reattached me in some ways, like got me to think, okay, I need to pay attention to some things here. So, and I felt really grateful and lucky that he survived. It was just kind of an amazing experience in some ways. So anyway, to make a long story short, again, that brought me to John's Intensive in San Diego for the first time. And, I partnered up with Ryan, as you know, and it was just one of the most amazing experiences and realizations I've ever had. So after that, I kind of got hooked, and now I'll try to do it at least once a year. But I think that was back in, gosh, I want to say, let's see, Wilson's 13 now. So maybe, yeah, that was like, I guess 3 or 4 years ago. Okay. So I've been going to the intensives for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Yeah.
What has kind of been like the biggest thing in my descriptive words that you've gotten from all
that pushed me? I mean, I guess it took big things for me to go and work on myself, back then. I don't want, I'm telling, the universe or whatever you want to call it, I'm good. I will go and do it. You don't have to we don't have to create these huge, traumatic situations anymore to push me into working on myself. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reminds me of when I shattered my kneecap in a car accident. It was definitely a wake up, and started to kind of look at the decisions I was making in my life. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That will definitely wake you up. That sounds painful.
It was.
Yeah, it shows you what you need to do.
Exactly. In a really quick way, right? And, that, I guess, works for some people. oh, I just got that. I was slow to get that.
It's morning in the West. It's early.
I meant it twofold. both stupidly and the other way.
And not stupidly.
Yeah, well, yeah, and not stupidly. Thank you. So what are you working on now? I know you got the podcast. How did you get into that?
I have been wanting to do something like that for a while. I had this need to get information out, and I've been seeing people one-on-one or in small groups, and I was like, this is awesome. I love this work. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to do more. I'd like to get it out to more people, and as well, just really get clear on my voice. And I've loved to sing in the past. And so using my voice as an instrument in a way of helping people help themselves was a really sounded really fun to me. So I read, I'll bring up the book again, Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly. And I don't know, for whatever reason, that just seemed to be the catalyst for me to actually try something that I felt super uncomfortable with. I was in this mode of worrying about what people thought of me, or I'd look stupid, or, or somebody's going to say something really negative about me. And worrying about all that and making other people's basically experience of me my business. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to see what this feels like, because I actually, that other thing's not really working for me anymore. So let me try this. So I decided just to start. I didn't really know what I was doing, and asked Maya to do it with me because, we're on the same page with a lot of nutrition information and emotional coaching and that kind of thing. So it just really worked. So we started just talking amongst ourselves, having our own conversations and recording that. And then we decided we're ready to start interviewing people. And Brian was our first interview. And that was so much fun. And it was. I'm loving it, because I really love to connect with people. And honestly, this is such a great way to do it. And it's so much fun. So, so thank you guys for having me on too, because this is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot different being on the different sides.
It is, yeah, because people are like listening to me talk instead of,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. But it's fun too. I like it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest struggle, if you've had any, with the podcast?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say managing my time with it because I think everything else seems really easy. But I tend to be like on the computer for hours now, editing and stuff. And I'm really wanting to kind of condense that because honestly, like I love to move and I love to be physically active, but sitting down has really, for so long, I can feel how it's affected my body. I try to stand up and move around a little bit more. I don't know if you guys know Katie Bowman, but she talks about like just changing her positions constantly at the computer, which is what she does because she does a lot of work on the computer as well. So for people who are physically active, and I still do that, but at times I don't want to be sitting at the computer for so long, even though like I want it to be good and I want people to access it and I want to do it in a timely fashion. I'm still kind of in that phase of like figuring out what the right how I can make it more efficient, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
The technological side of it.
Yeah, totally.
You're
Yeah,
good at,
that was a learning process. I mean, that has taken a lot of time too because technology isn't my forte.
mm,
Uh, but it's been good. I mean, I think for anybody with their own business, you really need to know how to navigate. How to navigate your own website, change it. Do all the things for social media. You need to be able to do that. And of course, if you get big enough, have someone else do it. But I think it's good to also know how to do it and not
mm.
just hire somebody to do it all the time. That's my opinion. But
Yeah, to a certain point, there's people that they kind of get down that rabbit hole, and then they're these social media masters, but they're great
yeah,
at making images, but not much else. It's like, oh
that's
boy.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So having a balance, but yeah, knowing what, even if you were to hire somebody to do something, you'd want at least to know what kind of direction to give them, right?
Well,
So
that's the hard part is like if I always think if I hired somebody, I don't have a problem hiring somebody, but it's like, would they be able to express it the way I want it to be expressed? And
Right.
like, are they
yeah,
be a reflection of who I am? And that's I don't know. So I keep doing it myself. But
well, you'll
I,
get there when the
yeah,
time's right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Right on.
All right. Cool. Claude, do you have anything else before we start into wrap ups?
Yeah, yeah. So I know you've been coaching for forever now, but um, since
It's been a long time.
since the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But how has the industry shifted, like the personal training and fitness coaching industry? Like how has it? You've seen it develop through so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well,
like,
that's a
what's the
great
biggest shift that you've seen?
The biggest shift I've seen is it going out of the gym and onto the computer, like online training has become really popular. Um, and just because it's just so much more accessible.
Hmm.
As far as like someone being able to help you online with specific issues that need to really be, like corrective exercise issues, that might not be a good idea in my opinion. But I think I think that's been the trend, of course. When I started, and this is going to make me sound really old, but no one really had a website. You weren't required to have a website as a trainer. You would just kind of at a gym, and they would put your picture up on the wall. People would call you or email you. And I remember when I first got my website, it was just one page. It was purple. And it was really, yeah, it was really cool. It had, but after that, then you start seeing like the need to do social media and like, which wasn't even like part of you used to go in the gym and train people, people call you, schedule it, you train them. That was it.
Yeah.
or but now you have to, I mean, we're not have to, but you kind of need to be on social media. So I think the biggest change is like now the personal trainer has kind of come out of the gym and more onto the computer. So, and gotten more online in every way, just social media wise, but also online training, online courses, podcasting, which I think is kind of amazing. Actually really like where it's going because you can kind of create your own thing. You're not like this personal trainer anymore. That's kind of just like one dimensional. You can be something so different. You can have a podcast. You can talk about your specific approach on a podcast, which wasn't accessible before. You couldn't really do that. So people had to like read your bio and kind of get an idea of what you were about from that. But now you can do so much more.
Yeah, it's true with YouTube, with Facebook, with podcasts. I mean,
we're definitely not in a shortage of information.
Definitely not. Yeah. Well, if people want to know about you, they can find out.
Yeah. But it also becomes an issue because all of a sudden you're spending, 3 or 4 times what you'd be usually just training people doing, like, or programming or reading up on your craft. Yeah. All of a sudden this has gone into like click, 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 or like, hey guys, here's another video. Like, so it's like it can kind of trip people up because I see a lot of people on, like, let's say YouTube. I don't want to bash the platform, but they don't know what the hell they're talking about. But they're great at whatever it is that they're doing. It's just it's not the correct information. But like if they were equipped correctly, like I feel like the days where CHEK was really like famous, like 10, 20 years ago, and there was like quite a few CHEK practitioners like rolling around. I know there's still CHEK practitioners, but like he was a pretty big staple name in the industry. If like YouTube was big around those days, we'd have a completely different YouTube like market, right? Now you've got
probably.
Now you've got these idiots doing like clapping push-ups and telling everybody they need to do like 50 clapping push-ups a day to get fit. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, what about like that dude who hasn't done a push-up since he was like 15? Like, it's just,
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that the consumer has to really, that each person needs to be their own authority. Like, they need to know what they're getting into and take responsibility for that because we do live in a time where there's so much information out there as well. They need to make sure it resonates with them. Like, like if you've had like a shoulder injury, like that's probably not going to be a good idea for you to do. Like that's kind of common sense, right? But maybe not for everybody. But we are going to, some people, I guess, will have to go through mistakes before they can find their truth, So yeah, but that's a good point. There is a lot of like misinformation out there. I totally agree. And I see it all the time with nutrition information as well.
Fat is bad.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But that's why I have the podcast, because I want to give people not correct information, but information that's true for me and that's worked for me and the people I've worked with. So that's a way for me to kind of, in a way, rectify that somehow, like balance it out, So
be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brian, I think I'm good for my questions, sir. So unless you have something, we can go into the wrap-up zone.
All right. I've got nothing.
Perfect.
So, Allison, what do you disagree with that other professionals in your field generally agree on?
What do I agree on?
What do you disagree with that most other practitioners generally agree on?
Oh, most other. Like who would you lump into that category, Brian, as most other? I don't know. You mean like...
Where are you a dissenter?
What's that?
Where are you a dissenter? Yeah, like where are you like the outcast?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say there's many examples of that, but I think for a long time I was really trying to be understood by people. I was like, gosh, if people could really understand me. But actually that's not my goal anymore. I don't really, I don't feel like I need to prove or defend myself about things anymore. I trust that the people who want to hear the information I have to share will come to me. I think probably, but to answer your question a little more directly, I would say that sugar, possibly, just the sugar is such a bad thing right now, and I actually don't feel that way about it. I think that it can be very beneficial for the metabolism. We just have to know how to use it. So right now, like, everybody's got this anti-sugar campaign, and I think that could be a mistake, and that could really come back to haunt people later on down the road. But we'll see how that goes. But I hope that just like with anything, sugar can be detrimental to your health if you use it only and by itself and too much of it. But there's a good way to use it to heal the metabolism. It can have medicinal qualities. So those are some of the things we talk about in our show and how to use that. Yeah, sugar in the form of fruit, root vegetables to start, and dairy and those kinds of things.
Well, for sure. Yeah, what happens is there's always swings to one side or another, especially in nutrition. It's like, oh, eggs are good for you. Eggs are going to kill you tomorrow.
Right.
Like, tomatoes are good for you. Tomatoes cause cancer in your face. It's like,
yeah. Can we finally agree that saturated fat is good for you? I mean,
well,
how
according
long
to
is it
that
take?
study
the American
that just came
Heart
out,
Association.
2 or 3 weeks ago, it's like, oh man, what are you guys doing?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still things are still being worked out. So
everything in moderation.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, except for Drano. Don't have Drano in moderation.
I know. Do that.
Or gluten.
I have no words.
You have no words. Yeah, you should get a dictionary. It'll help.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, and this is the turn the show tends to take. Allison, what is your current area of study?
Okay, yeah. So right now, I'm currently studying, honestly, I'll be honest with you. So a couple things.
Please lie to me.
Space pirates. She's studying space pirates.
I guess. Basically, right now I'm really focused on, how do I put this? Just attracting what I want in my life and being grateful. And so studying the law of attraction, or not even the law of attraction, and it's more for me, it's like about learning how to allow and receive. That energetically for me has been hard in my past, because I've been very much a doer and used to just doing things or pushing through things. But now I'm actually learning how to kind of receive and allow, which is a much more replenishing type of way to go about life. So that's one thing I guess you could say I'm studying, or I'm learning about, as well as on the biochemistry side of nutrition through Ray Peat and through Kate Deering's work. I'm still always learning about that and hormonal balance, because, after the age of 40 for most women, I can't speak for men, but I can only speak for what I have experienced. Your hormonal balance does change. And so there's certain things you can do with food and other tools, through life balance to help with that. But a lot of that is not known. People are really in the dark about that, and they go to these extremes and just end up a lot worse after that. So that's I'm always studying that and looking into it, because it takes years of study to understand that stuff, and I'm working on giving it to people in a way they can understand. So yeah.
So what's a good resource for a woman, heading into her 40s or already in her 40s, to look at, that she can maybe make heads or tails out of this stuff?
That without a doubt, I would say Kate Deering's book, How to Heal Your Metabolism. It's we just actually interviewed her most recently, and she has compiled this information, basically communicating through Ray Peat and through other resources, to make this book very understandable for people, and it's like basically a manual on how to eat as you get older, to counteract the aging process a little bit, and not to age so fast, and to help your body produce those anti-aging, anti-stress hormones, because that's really what it's about. That's the change that happens when we reach a certain age. Like we're not producing those anti-aging, anti-stress or protective hormones as much as we were before when we were like in our 20s. So that's why we regenerate slower. We come into problems of inflammation and those kinds of things. So I would definitely say How to Heal Your Metabolism by Kate Deering would be my number one pick for that, for sure.
Nice.
Or recommendation. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, who is the first person that comes to mind, or what is your definition of the optimum human?
Whew. Wow, great question. Gosh.
We come with the hard hitters here.
That's a hard one, Brian. The optimum human. Geez, that I don't know. I don't know if there is, I would say, I can't, I don't know. I don't know how other people are living or what they're experiencing, but I would say someone who, I'll just make up a person, someone who has that life balance, who can tap into that balance for themselves, whether it's emotional balance, whether it's nutritional balance, physical movement, allowing, listening, I would say like anybody who can start to master those things of receiving, replenishment, allowing, that's going to be the optimum human, because they're going to start to, learn how to not deplete themselves, be able to regulate their energy properly. They're not going to let things affect them so much outside of themselves, because they know themselves. They feel very much aligned in themselves. And so I think the more that you can get to that place of alignment and knowing yourself better, aside from other people's opinions and projections, then you're probably heading towards being that optimum human, in my opinion. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, who would you want to hear on this podcast, and what would you want to ask them or hear them talk about?
So I thought about this, and I would say I would really love to see Brene Brown on you guys' show. I don't
think that's the first time we've heard that.
Probably the fifth or sixth.
I would like to have her on my show too. But that would be my wish, Brian and Claude, if you guys could make that happen.
Okay.
Well, we'll try and reach out to her. I know I haven't tried yet, but
no, I haven't either. But
I know
we'll definitely
she's been busy.
Yeah, she's got an amazing perspective on life. So, in my opinion, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we'll make it happen eventually.
Yeah. Now, how do I say this?
I'm great.
Yes, Claude, you are, and
Thank
so are you, and so am I, because I'm arrogant like that. But anyways, Allison, how do you integrate yourself?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, the way I've been integrating myself most recently is being more playful, having more fun, and working to, not working, that's not the right word for that, but like just creating situations in my life where I am able to do that, like talking to you guys, or just being open to things that I wouldn't maybe do or be comfortable with. What's going on? So yeah, right. Having fun.
Having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's life is too short to take it all seriously. So.
Yeah, and like we just talked about on this show with JP, like playfulness. Like it's the alchemy for discovering yourself.
Yeah. What was our theme, Brian, with JP?
Intentionally uncomfortable.
Being intentionally uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we were able to make
show.
JP uncomfortable, so that's our claim to fame.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
Or maybe he pretended like we were able to, so
I
he
think
made
he's
us
a
feel
pretty
good about
authentic
ourselves.
guy, but I don't know.
Yeah, done that. I don't know. He's good
Yeah,
at
he
that.
doesn't seem sarcastic at all, Brian.
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
So,
Yeah.
Allison, where can our listeners find out more about you, what you're doing, the Integrate Yourself podcast? Where can people find you?
Sure. Yeah. So right now, you can find really everything at pureenergypdx.com. You can find our podcast on there. You can also go to our Patreon page. We just started it, actually. It's patreon.com/integrate yourself. And what our intention is on that page is to help everybody. It's kind of like after the podcast, after the show, we want to help people integrate what we talk about in the show into their lives. And it's we have one reward tier on there, which is $5 a month. And you're going to have, if you do join that, which we just started, we don't have anybody on there yet, but we're hoping that we gain some momentum with that, because we really want to share. Yeah, we really want to share with everybody like everything we've learned. And so we're going to be putting video tutorials on that with cooking, exercise, as well as nutritional talk, and then some after podcast video clips. And then as well as we're going to be doing like live stream coaching sessions eventually on that one as well. So it's a great forum also for people to ask questions and those kind of things. We want to build a community of people. So, we're really excited about it. Hopefully everybody will check it out.
Beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've set up our Patreon page, but we haven't launched it yet. But it's been what, 2 months now since we've been talking about it, Brian?
Maybe.
We'll do it one of these days. We'll drop it.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting concept. I think it's kind of cool. It's
you
really
can take it wherever you want, right?
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Yep. So as far as the podcast, you can find that on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube.
Oh yeah, you can find us on iTunes, Android, basically everything. Stitcher. I think I've put us on everywhere. So, and any podcast app as well. So. Definitely check us out. We're also on YouTube. So we have both you can see our podcast and you can listen to our podcast. So my YouTube channel is under Allison Pelot and Maya's is under Maya Gottlieb. So you can check us out there too.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Wicked.
Any final thoughts, asks, quotes for our listeners?
I would say for women, well, I don't want to, anybody, I shouldn't say just women, but usually women like to read this book. I know, darn it. I have this book, Women Who Run with Wolves, and it's really kind of an amazing book. It takes a while to read because it's just...
it's a beast of a book.
It's a beast of a book.
Kill someone with that thing.
I kind of want to, right? It's good to just read in little increments because you want to process the information, because it's more like a mythological kind of approach to kind of seeing yourself. So in reflection, that would be a good one. And I'm going to be, I would say this one: get yourself straight with your money, especially before you.
Money and the law of attraction.
Yeah, especially before you start your business. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to get that straight, your relationship with money, for sure. In my experience, that's what I've learned. So, just know how you feel about it, know how comfortable you are letting it into your life and that kind of thing. So, that would be my big thing. Like, those are important. As well as the Brene Brown book, Daring Greatly. So all those things will help you get out there.
And integrate yourself.
That's right.
I'm going to plug your shit for you. Allison, thank you so much. This has been just absolutely amazing.
Yes, thank you. I really loved it. I had so much fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll catch you next week or the week after, whenever this thing launches. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll see you
All
guys
right,
soon.
guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.